Hi, today we'll be coding something starting from this animation where we have a bunch of rings made out of eyes. We're not going to try to reproduce it exactly. Let's just start coding and see what happens. Okay, so if you've seen my previous videos, then you know we can't just do dot emoji here, so we need to do something like this. Class, and set it in the value of this class attribute. But here in the CSS we can just do dot emoji and this works just fine. Okay, now if you've seen there, we have those dots and those rings around them, and we're going to use a pseudo element for the dot and the actual element for the ring. Okay, we're going to start with a radius, inner radius for the dot, let's say 0.5 ems, and we probably are going to tweak this later, but yeah. Something else you may have seen in my previous videos, I like to do something like this. On the body and on all div elements, just set display grid. This really simplifies things. Okay, and here we're going to have the after, and we're going to set that radius as the padding, and of course we also need to set content because otherwise nothing's going to show up, and we won't be seeing anything if we don't give it a background because the background by default is transparent. Okay, next step, we're going to want to set place self center. The default is stretch, which is why it's stretched across. Okay, this looks like it's only placed in the middle horizontally, but the thing is, the body takes the height of its content at this point. We need to explicitly set the height of the body to the full viewport height. So something like this, right? And this gives us a scroll bar. Let's get rid of that with margin 0, or we can just go full nuclear and just set overflow hidden, and then yeah. Now let's maximize this because it's getting annoying. Next step is going to be set a padding right here. So let's say that's going to be half that radius. Okay, and let's also set a box shadow, which is going to be 0 for the offsets, 0 for the blur, and let's say something like this. And something else we're going to want to set here. So on the div and on after pseudo elements, we're going to want to set border radius 50%. Okay, so we don't have to set that twice. Now let's get back here and we're going to set a few more things. So first off, we're going to get the length of that array. So that's going to be length. Okay, and that's basically like a cluster size. And what I mean by that, so a cluster is going to be a group of eyes of different colors. So we're going to have, that's going to be one cluster, and then the next cluster, and then the next cluster, and then we're going to set a number of clusters, let's say 10, and if we multiply these two, we get the number of eyes per ring. So the number of eyes per ring is going to be np times nc, and then we're also going to set a number of rings, which let's say is going to be 3, and then we're going to have the total number of eyes, which is going to be the number of rings times the number of eyes per ring. And then we're going to have a loop right here, so for let I going from 0 all the way up to n, increment this, and of course we want to properly indent this. Now you can see how those just line up there, and something we're going to want to set right here is going to be a grid area, because we want them all to overlap, and that means placing them in the same grid cell. So they're all going to be in the cell at the intersection between the first row and first column. Our body grid is basically going to be just one cell. So here we're going to have grid area, first row, first column. That's where they're all placed. Now let's get back here for a little bit, and we're going to have body, and we're going to indent this properly. Okay, and in a style element, we are going to be having a few loops and set a few things. So that's going to go up to the number of rings first off. Then we're going to have the eye. Let's just copy that emoji. So here we're going to have dot. Okay, nth of type, and I'm not using nth child because I have that style in front of the divs. Okay, so here we're going to have plus all those on the previous rings. So that's going to be the number of eyes per ring times the ring index, and we're going to add 1 because the nth of type index is 1 based, as opposed to the loop index, which is 0 based. Okay, and here we're going to have the ring index is going to be set to the loop index. Now, having done this, we're just going to copy paste this twice more, and we're going to take that, the number of eyes, out of there. We're going to set it there. So here we're going to have every number of eyes, and here we're going to set a J, right? And here we're going to go up to NP, and again we're going to have something similar right there, NP, and of course take that out of there. And here we're going to do something a bit different. So we're going to interpolate. We're going to use the current index, and we're going to map the array of colors at the current index. So we're going to have the current color, the index of the color, and what we're going to set here is going to be a custom property, and here we're going to use that index J and set it to that color. Okay, so having done this, we're going to join this with a semicolon. I messed up something. No surprise. What exactly? I don't know. Let's see. Okay. Oh, yeah, of course. I can't type. That's the problem. Let's see the compiled code. This should work fine now. Okay, so it does work. So you see, for the odd ones and for the even ones, that's basically a parity test. Yeah, whatever. Good enough for me. Okay. So, let's get back to the CSS. Actually, first we're going to need to set a couple more things. So here we're going to set the number of rings as well, because so we're basically passing these to the CSS, so you don't have to set them once more in the CSS. And let's do the same for the number of eyes per ring. Okay, so now let's get back here, and we're going to be able to set a transform. So transform, let's actually compute a progress around the ring. So that's going to be a K. So we're going to have calc J, and that's going to be over the number of eyes per ring. Okay, so that's going to be our progress. And here we're going to use a rotate, and we're going to have calc. We're going to use that K times 1 turn. Okay, and then we're going to have a translate. Let's say something like this for now. Okay, and they're distributed around a circle. That's good. It's a good start. Now the next step here, we're going to set that to, okay, and let's also use that first color right there, and let's also set for the body, let's set a background. It's going to be something very dark but not quite black, something like this, and we can collapse the body because we won't be needing it anymore, and I don't really like that. Let's make this a bit bigger, something like this perhaps. Okay, and let's set here something transform translate, let's 50%. Let's see it. Okay, so you see how it's a bit exiting, and we're going to set here, we're going to set overflow hidden. Okay, and let me just show you. Here, they don't go all the way to the ring, so it's like they get cut out before. So overflow hidden cuts out everything outside the padding box, which means that if we have a transparent border, then we're going to have that ring around where the inner dot gets cut out, but you know, it doesn't get to touch the real colorful ring. So let's just set that border. So border, solid. Let's make it the same value as the padding. Transparent, so let's just use that. So it's going to look something like that. I think it's pretty good. Okay, now having done this, let's collapse that after for a little bit, and let's say that we're going to have something like that, let's say. Okay, and let's register that custom property. So we're going to have property x0. Okay. You know what? Here, let's just subtract 90 degrees. Okay. So here we're going to have syntax, that's basically the type. So we're going to have length percentage, okay, initial value 0 pixels, inherits false, no need for that. Okay, and now we're going to be able to have here, so keyframes, and this is going to be x0 to x0. Let's say it's going to be 500%, something like that. And now let's also set an animation duration right here. I don't know, something like 3 seconds. And here we're going to have an animation, and let's say that's going to be x0, that animation duration is out infinite. Let's see it. Okay, it's starting to look like something. And we also want them to scale from nothing to 1. So here we're going to have scale. We're going to have a factor f0, which is 1 initially. Let's just copy paste this, and then we're just going to modify stuff. Okay, so we're going to have a factor 0. This is going to be just a number. Initial value is going to be 1, inherits false as well, right? So here we are going to have something similar for, so f0, so this is going to be, so it's going to start from 0, and then we're going to have, so let's say f0, this is going to have half that animation duration. Okay, so infinite, alternate, and let's make this ease in out. Let's see it. Okay, that's not the proper distance, so let's compute something that's going to help us with getting the proper distance. So we're going to have a tangent, and this one is going to be tangent, so it's going to be half of 2 pi over n. So that's basically the base angle in between, the base angle corresponding to 1 eye. So that's going to be half of 2 pi over the number of eyes, which is basically pi over the number of eyes. And we don't need a ton of decimals, so let's make sure we just have a few decimals there. So here we're going to use a calc, and let's say let's say 5 times that radius over the tangent, because we want a bit of spacing around and stuff. Let's see it. Okay, that's starting to look like something. And here, let's say we're going to have an animation delay, and we're going to have a calc, and we're going to have the ring index over the number of rings. Okay, and let's say this is going to be times minus the animation duration. Let's see it. Okay, it's starting to look like something. So this is basically, let's say we're going to add a K right there. So the progress around the ring, let's see that. Okay. So it is starting to look like something. Now I think we can shift our attention to the after pseudo element. So we're going to have two more such custom properties. So they're going to start exactly the same. Alright, so here we're going to have translate, so something like that, and then we're going to have a scale, which is going to use that factor f1. Actually, we're not going to have any transform, so it's basically that. Okay, and then we're going to take these and we're going to adapt them. So we're going to start with this one right here. So this is going to go 0, 25%. So it's going to be 0. And here we're going to have 50 up to 100%. It's going to be 1. So let's see that. Let's say we're going to have animation F1, and let's make it easing out, infinite. Let's see it. And let's give it the same animation delay, inherit, animation delay inherit. So let's see it. I'm not really happy with that for some reason. Let's say we're going to, and I'm not happy with that because it's not working. Okay, much better. Okay, so let's change this one as well. So actually we're going to have something more similar to this one right here. So we're going to use X right there, and this is going to go up to 50%, and then something like this. So X1 is going to be 0 there, and then we're going to have, we're going to need to interpolate this 3 times the radius. So let's see that. Let's make that a generic one, and here we're going to set animation name X1 F1. Okay, so you see how everything is moving. Let's move it in the other direction. I think that was the direction in that dribble. Okay, so yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm just going to leave it at this. I'm not going to tweak it any further. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you like the work that I'm putting out since early 2012 and you want me to be able to do more in the future, please consider supporting it. You can do so by being a cool cat and becoming a patron on Patreon. The link is going to be in the description. Or you can get me something off my Amazon wishlist. Again, the links are going to be in the description. Or you can at least share this to show the world what can be done with CSS these days. Because honestly, I think it's pretty damn cool. In any event, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!